Hey, it's Ben Trigo from elephantherdconsulting.com. And today I want to talk about the importance of capital efficiency and inventory turnover. Now, if you're struggling to get to the next level, if your brand has plateaued, maybe you're having trouble generating enough capital, you're borrowing a lot, maybe you even need to borrow more, or you think you need to raise more, an area to look at is improving your capital efficiency and specifically your inventory turnover. So when you look at D2C Twitter or X, you see a lot of people talking about advertising. You see a lot of people talking about the importance of contribution profit, and that's great. But that's half the equation, because your company, your brand, is really a machine designed to maximize returns given an amount of inputted capital. And it's that second part of the equation that's so critical. And the part that is often overlooked, frankly, because it's more difficult. Let's think of your machine, right, that's trying to maximize returns for inputted capital, like an investment. So the size of the returns, right, would be your profitability. How much profit do you make? The frequency, though, with which you can generate those profits would be similar to the compounding rate. So, if you make 15% per year, that's great. But would you rather make 15% every 6 months or every 3 months or every month? It's much, much better. So let's look at an example. I'm doing some napkin math, so you would obviously model this out in a more comprehensive model, but it's for illustrative purposes. We're going to take two companies. Here's their income statement or their P&L, exactly the same. These are larger companies. Company A is doing 100 million. Company B is doing 100 million. Same gross profit margins, same contribution profit margins, same amount of marketing, same OPEX, and they get down to an operating profit or an EBITDA of 15 million or 15%. Great. These are awesome companies. A lot of people would be excited about those types of margins. But let's add in some balance sheet info. Company A has 270 days of inventory on hand on average. Company B has 90 days. So Company A at three quarters, Company B at 1 quarter. We take the daily COGS, that's the total COGS for the year divided by 365. We multiply it by their days sales inventory, and we get to their average inventory of 26 million for Company A and 8.6 million for Company B. So A carrying a lot more inventory on its balance sheet, as we can see here. We calc the inventory turnover ratio, that's simply COGS divided by average inventory. So this can be more complicated, but because it's napkin math, we're going to do it simply. So that in Company's A case, it's 1.4. In Company B, it's 4.1. So now let's think about how these companies consume cash. So where does most of the capital in a brand go? Well, it goes to inventory and it goes to marketing. So in Company A, we know that they need about 26 million over the course of a year in inventory, or average inventory, I should say, and they need about 20 million of marketing. Company B is 8.6 and same amount of marketing, 20, so 28. So right off the bat, we see this huge discrepancy, right? B requires 17 million less capital over the course of the year to do its thing. That should be full stop right there, right? So if you're borrowing, if you're going on raising, would you rather be in B's position or A's position? Well, B needs 17 million less. Now, I know it's napkin math, but it illustrates the point here. So let's say an investor comes along and is interested in A and B, has $25 million to invest. Where does that money go? Well, let's look. So in A's case, that 25 million has to go, big chunk of it, 56% of it has to go to inventory, and about 11 million can go into marketing. But in B's case, they only need to put about 7.5 million into inventory, and they can put over 17 million into marketing, right? So 30% into the inventory and 70% into the marketing. That's a huge difference. Let's figure out what happens over the course of the year. Well, we know that because of the inventory turnover ratio, we basically take 14.1, we multiply it by the 1.4, right? And that gets us to our new COGS number of 19 million. Whereas in B's case, we take 7.5, we multiply that by the 4.1, and we get to COGS of almost 31 million. We gross that up to COGS divided by 1 minus the gross margin. We get to the additional sales number. So in this case, B is able to generate almost 33 million more of additional sales. And then as you can see, all the margin structure stays the same. We assume no operating leverage. Again, it's napkin math for illustrative purposes. But as you go down the P&L, you see that B is generating 21 million more of gross profit, almost 15 million more of contribution profit, over 8 million of contribution profit after marketing. And when we get all said and done, it's generating almost 5 million more of EBITDA. So that's a massive difference. Now, let's think about valuation. Let's say times are good. Both these companies are able to get a 10 multiple on their EBITDA. Well, in A's case, they get an $82 million valuation. And in B's case, 10 times a little over 13 million in EBITDA is $131 million in valuation. It's a $49 million difference, almost a $50 million difference in valuation between these two companies. But we also know that investors aren't dumb. They're not going to look at these two companies in the same way. They're going to say B is so much more capital efficient. I want B all day long, and maybe I still like A. So maybe I still like A at a 10, but company B deserves a higher multiple. I'm going to give it a 12. So let's look at now what happens. Company B, almost $160 million valuation. It's $75 million. Let's say that B can get all the way up to where Hero was at a 14. You're at $183 million difference in valuation, over $100 million of additional value, right? Now, if you're a founder and you own 20-30% of the company, it's easy math. You're looking at $20, $30, $40 million extra in your pocket. These are huge life-changing differences. So let's put it back at 12. And let's do one more experiment. I think, what's interesting is what would it take for A to match B EBITDA margin? Or another way to say this is how much additional margin would A need to match B's competitive advantage in capital turnover? So we see that they're both 15%. So what do we need to increase A to match B's advantage? Well, because I've done it, I know the answer. So let's just say that A has to go all the way up to a 22% EBITDA margin to get to roughly the same number. So obviously doable, but 7 extra points of EBITDA margin is not easy, right? It's basically improving your EBITDA margin by 50%. So that's a huge difference. So if you're looking at making changes for this year, if you're looking at planning, if you're trying to reduce your borrowing, trying to reduce the amount of money that you need to raise, looking to go to the next level, think about your inventory turnover ratio. Think about how you reduce the amount of inventory you need to carry and how you move that inventory faster. And think about the dramatic differences it can make in your business. I hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions, I can be reached at ben@elephantherdconsulting.com. You can go, I'll post this eventually on the site at elephantherdconsulting.com so you can check it out or share it with people inside the company or investors or whoever. Thank you.